Welcome back to Life and Style. This is Health and Wellness Monday. I'm Mikali, and on Living Up today, we're back at the Back to Nature Natural Holistic Wellness and Retreat Center at Runda, and we're still focusing on detox, cleanse, and going back to nature, basically embracing what nature has to offer to make ourselves maintain or go back to our healthy states and not a state of disease like we learned last week on Monday on Living Up. And today, very, very interesting story from a very, very phenomenal gentleman called Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I promised to come back, and I'm back.
Yes.
And we're here to get your story, and it's very, very moving, very life-changing. And before I spoil it for the viewers, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah.
How old are you? And give us a bit of background.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mikali. My name is Patrick, like you've heard, Patrick Ekiring, and I am 37 years old, or rather I'm turning 37 this year.
Okay.
And what I do for a living is that I am market development manager, and our organization supplies and leases medical equipment to the government.
Wow,
so I'm in
interesting.
the healthcare industry,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that the doctors have finally gone back to
But yeah.
Yes. Besides that, and more specifically why I'm here today having this discussion or conversation is because of what I learned from this Back to Nature movement.
Yeah.
And for me personally is that when I was 24 years old,
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes,
24.
24 years old.
What
Yes.
was the basis or the cause for that? I mean, at 24, they think,
yes.
most of the people would think that diabetes is for the old.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was one of them, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, come to think of it,
Yeah.
there was really no point in time that I knew that it was gonna happen. Like there was no cause. Basically, what had happened is that I had traveled with a couple of friends, and at the time I was in my second job. So I've just finished my university. Life is about to begin.
Yeah.
And we had gone for a holiday in Savo. And we spent, it was over Easter, we spent a lovely weekend over there, and then we came back to Nairobi. But the moment we came back to Nairobi, I felt sick. And we do not have any diabetes background in our family.
No?
So we did not suspect it to be diabetes because the symptoms are very interesting. And the first medical visit that I went to, I was immediately put on medication of malaria. You know, yeah,
Wow.
you travel, you go, you see the doctor.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
travel, then you're told, okay, fine.
Yeah.
You know, so, okay, fine, I stayed for a couple of days. But what I remember was I was losing a lot of fluids.
Okay.
I was getting quite thirsty, and I was really, really craving something sweet.
Okay.
I wanted to drink Fanta, I would want to drink something cold Fanta. And at the time I was still staying home with my mom, and I remember after 2 or 3 days with the malaria medication, there was, so to speak, no improvement. And I went back to see another doctor, and this time I was put on medication for typhoid.
Whoa. Malaria was bad enough.
Malaria was bad enough. Now I've moved to typhoid, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm weak. I probably can't leave the bed, I can't leave the house. I know I'm on medication, but I'm hoping that I get well, you know, soon in time. The typhoid medication is quite strong.
Yes, it is.
So I remember it took me another 3 or 4 days to be bedridden, still at home, no appetite, struggling, trying to find out, you know, what's the next move. And after about a week, when my mom, I remember vividly, she came and looked me in the eye and said, this guy is gonna die over here. So this time she resolved that she's going to get me admitted. And the hospital we went to then requested to do actually a HIV test.
Okay.
Now we have moved from malaria to
Typhoid
to now
to HIV.
And at the time, you know, you're frail, you're sick, and you're like, you know, let them
Yeah.
test whatever they can so that at least I can get my health back. Fortunately or unfortunately, whilst they were conducting the tests and whilst they were trying to get me admitted to the hospital, they realized that they do not have any more bed capacity. So I had to move from that hospital to go to another hospital for more, you know, to seek further, you know, consultation.
Lord.
So that was a journey. So anyway, we finally went to a hospital in Nairobi West, and the doctor who saw me noticed that I was going to the toilet a lot. And by the time I had lost between 15 to 20 kgs, basically my thighs looked like my arms at that point in time. And the moment he saw that I was going to the toilet a lot, requested for me to do a blood sugar test. That was the first time that it occurred to us that maybe what we could be dealing with is actually high blood sugar. At the time, I had not imagined that I could be diabetic, or anyone in our family could be diabetic, because it's, you know, it's that sickness for
old people.
Old people out there who have lived their lives. Yes.
But what kind of lifestyle were you living before?
Well, I was living an ordinary life, highly energetic. I would work out like 3 or 4 times a week.
Seriously?
Yes, I would go to the gym. I remember previously when I was in high school, I was a rugby vice captain. So I was very, very into sports.
Yeah.
And we'd do road work, like for, you know, we'd do a lot of exercises. At the same time, well, you know, I would eat whatever I felt like, but yeah, whatever I felt interested in. And I know for a fact that when I was in high school, there's a time when you're in boarding school, when probably all you have is sugar, cocoa.
Yes, and Blue Band.
And Blue Band and or water.
Yes, yes.
So
yes.
yeah, I remember there were times when, you know, that drink would call CP or call Power Eyes, and I would take a lot of it. But, you know, I never ever thought or imagined that, you know, that would cause any harm,
diabetes
or
instead.
that I would have diabetes or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I, so to speak, lived a normal life. I was highly, you know, energetic, would do a lot of exercises. When we'd go to the gym, I remember I would, you know, work out and leave the last person. Yeah. So I was really, really full of energy. Yeah. So
you've been told, going back to the doctor, and now they test for the blood sugar.
Yes.
So you're told you have high blood sugar.
Now, the thing that I recall, because by that time, one of the symptoms that catches up also is that your eyesight can come blurry, because there may be falling cataracts. So I couldn't even see clearly at the time. And by the time I was there with my mom and my dad, and I think 1 or 2 other relatives. But when they came and said the level of the sugar at that point in time, till today I've never ever gotten to know what the reading was. It was so high that I only got to know what my sugar level was after being put on insulin and being put on drip, because I'd lost tons and tons of weight. So it was so high to the extent that I just imagined that my life has come to an end.
Yeah. At 24.
At 24.
That's like the peak. Your life starts at 24.
Yeah, it's supposed to be beginning there, and
How do you handle this situation, your family and everything?
Well, it was, you know, first of all, I was admitted for, I think, a week or so. And one of the first things that I had to deal with is getting the syringe and being injected by the nurse, because it was so high that no form of oral medication or what would bring it back to normalcy. And all the sugar that I was craving in terms of the soda and whatnot, basically what the doctors told me was that it probably was a miracle that I had not succumbed by then, because my blood was more or less like a syrup by that time. So my body was not recepting any insulin, any energy, because, you know, the insulin was just not there. Now, of course, it's quite shocking, first of all, because first of all, there was no sign, there was no indication.
Yeah.
I'd come from a lovely weekend with some colleagues and friends, and the next thing I know is that I'm sick, and the next thing I know is that I'm being told that I have to inject myself. So it was really, 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 really hard. And I remember the first night or the second night in hospital, it was really challenging. I would go back as a Christian and ask God, why me?
Yeah.
Why now? You know, I can understand, you know, if I've more or less lived my life and now having to deal with these non-communicable diseases or challenges, but, you know, I think at some point I thanked the fact that I started seeing the improvement. And I was more or less thankful for the fact that at least they were able to diagnose it then,
Yeah.
instead of me being a forgotten story. But also, I remember the nurse who used to inject me. I used to ask her, so when I leave hospital, how am I going to do this? Are you going to be coming every day? She's like, no.
You have to learn how to.
You will learn. By day 5, day 6, you're going to learn. So in my head, I'm like, okay, let me just survive the day as it comes. And the kind of way that you feel when your sugar is high, you kind of like feel like your cells are stretched. I don't know if you maybe stretch your cells or you stretch your skin.
Yeah.
So that's how you feel. So as somebody who doesn't know what they're dealing with or suffering, when I started now being injecting the insulin, I started getting the relief. And I started at least appreciating that, no, okay, fine. It wasn't malaria probably. It wasn't typhoid. But the thing that I remember was that there was a bacterial infection that triggered the diabetes. That's the last report the doctor gave.
Okay.
So I really don't know whether we had traits of diabetes in our family.
No.
Because what they say is that because of change of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you know, my grandfather probably did much more tons of exercises, lived a healthier lifestyle. They say that, not that we know of, maybe we had traits, but the first, so to speak, in our family
in
line.
the lineage of your
Yes, yes. Who, you
So
know.
you've lived with this from 24, injecting yourself.
Yes.
We need to get to the transformation, because, you know, everybody has been hearing this sad story. Let me promise you there's a happy ending to this one.
Yes.
Continue, Patrick.
So, well, it continues because you now start, you know, there's a diabetes management information center. You go, I went, got information, learned that there are different types of diabetes, learned not to go to certain parties, because now you imagine, okay, I have a dietitian, I have to see what, there are foods that I should eat, there are foods that I should not eat. But I think the thing that I remember from 24, moving on to 25, I was at my second job at the time. Of course, I somehow realized that it's a personal, you know, journey. It's not a disease, but it's a condition that can be managed. However, at some point in time, I kind of like say to myself that as long as I have insulin, then I can eat, you know, the sweet stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think that's the lie, so to speak, because one of the challenges of diabetes, like they call it the silent killer, is that when your sugars are being erratic, like, you know, going up and down, because that's not what you have to deal with, then that's where the complications or harm happens. The body would want to regulate itself more through a, like, you know, controlled kind of sugar or whatever, even if it's temperature. So moving on, I managed my condition. Of course, I had challenges. Every year or every other 6 months, I'll go for a test. And I remember there's a doctor I went and saw. Because each time when you go to a doctor, they'll tell you, are you exercising? Are you taking your insulin? Are you checking your sugars? So it becomes copy-paste. And sometimes you want to hear something different, so that at least you get to know whether you're on track or
like,
not.
is it gonna end?
Exactly,
Yeah.
So I went to see a different kind of doctor who's a naturopath doctor. And he when I told him the kind of dosage that I was on at the time, which was 20 units, 3 times a day.
Whoa.
Because normally people will take in the morning, and then a higher dose, and then take later in the evening. But after several visits, I was recommended that I ensure that I take more or less around every meal. And having a unit of 20, the doctor told me that he has been a doctor treating diabetes for years.
And?
In every continent, and he has never seen a single patient who's on that high kind of a dosage. And he was very clear that my pancreas is not functioning. Sometimes you want to lie to yourself that, you know, maybe there's a little bit of insulin.
Yeah.
And, you know, I accepted the news, and I was more or less keen or curious to see whether I could, so to speak, reverse my condition or find a more approachable way of handling the erratic sugars that were up and down.
Okay.
Yes.
That's when you got in touch with Back to Nature. This is something, 20 units 3 times a day.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty high.
It's pretty high. Yeah.
So, Back to Nature, because this is what brings us to, you know, your story. This is what has highlighted your journey.
Yeah.
How has that changed your life, and how long ago
Yeah.
did you join the Back to Nature movement?
So towards the end of last year, towards October, I met the people behind the Back to Nature movement, and one of the things that one of the ladies said is that, you know, you are not your condition.
Oh.
And one of the things that you more or less suffer as a diabetic patient, especially if you're on insulin, is what we call a hypo. Now,
what is that?
A hypo is like a side effect of the insulin, because at that point in time, your sugars are quite low, and people actually die of diabetic comas through the impact of a hypo. Means that at that point in time, if I don't get something to eat, something sweet in like 7 to 10 minutes,
that's
then,
it.
Yeah, I sweat, you know, you'd sweat, you'd feel. So this lady, very interesting, I told her that when I have a hypo, please take care of me. And she told me, you know what, you can actually be responsible for your own condition, and you don't have to create drama every time you have a hypo. So for me, it was very interesting, because now at that point in time, I knew, okay, fine. What she's trying to tell me is that I can actually reverse this, and I don't have to go everywhere that I am. Oh, you know, I'm diabetic.
I hope
my
anyone
sugars
here
are
has
not
a
going
sweet.
low. Yeah.
No?
Do you have a sweet?
A cookie?
Run, like I'll use, you know, when
Okay,
I go
fine.
home.
Why are we making fun?
Run.
Okay, sorry.
Right, yeah. So I got curious, and I get that one of the days that I was sleeping, and I actually did not have anything in the fridge. And it was actually quite fortunate that a neighbor of mine came to my assistance. It was kind of like a point in time that I really got that these erratic sugars, highs and lows, need to be managed better. I can do that. And when I got in conversation with the Back to Nature team, and then had about what they were up to in terms of juicing, exclusively 80% vegetables and 20% fruit, because I also know fruit has a lot of sugar. Then I became interested and said, wait, I might as well try this, because I've more or less tried everything else. I've gone to Meeting Idawa. I've taken loans to go and see Meeting Idawa, which I've been promised will reverse the condition, but never worked. I said, you know what, it's my health. This might just be the solution, or a solution that works for me, because every condition is unique, but let's see how it goes.
Okay.
So they had a 28-day challenge. So I took on the challenge, and what we needed to do is be here at the Back to Nature Health and Wellness Nat Holistic Center for 28 days, not consume anything solid, purely juice. We're talking about spinach, parsley, celery, cabbages, a little bit of carrots, ho-ho, all that mixed. And for somebody who has enjoyed, you know, nyama choma here and there, and you know, it was really, really something that I had to convince myself. But I knew the moment I come here, then that's it. So, of course, I had to, seek consultation from medical doctors as well, just to ensure that, you know, my sugars are monitored throughout the period. And as I reduce my insulin intake, then the same can be captured and monitored, so that I'm not getting any challenges throughout the period. Yeah. So the first few days the first day was yay, I'm doing this. And then by the time it reached evening, you know, hunger, the thought of going to bed without having a meal was, you know, quite huge. But, you know, I'll drink lots of fluids and maybe take some herbal teas. But yeah, the juices for the first few days were a bit challenging, especially day 2, 3. I really felt like my body has gone through a slump.
And were you having the erratics up and down of you needing something sweet?
No.
No.
The reason being because, you know, from day 1 I knew definitely that I had to consider reducing my insulin intake, because I know if I do 20-20-20, it goes more or less hand in hand with what I was eating.
Okay.
Right? I used to have hypos, the downs, averagely 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
Now, from the time we started, the juice fast, I can count, maybe I've had a hypo like 2 or 3 times, and that's since November.
Wow, what's the dosage now?
Well, I was able to shift the dosage from 3 times a day to once a day, and not even the 20 units that I was taking initially, but to 15 units.
15 units once a day?
15 units.
That's basically a miracle.
Yes, it is possible. I'm still committed that I can reverse the diabetes, but I think one of the things that I got to appreciate is that my body, or so to speak, our bodies have a lot of toxicity. And when the environment is toxic, however much medication you're taking in, it doesn't allow the body an opportunity to heal. So what I got out of that juice fast, so to speak, is that I was able to cleanse my body and remove any other items or issues that my body was dealing with then that would make my sugars go up and down. So as my normalcy, as the body started becoming calm, and as I started taking things like moringa as well, because now, it also took me a while to understand what is good for diabetics, what is not good.
Then even in the juicing, even back to nature and all
Yes.
these vegetables, you had to choose or even identify and learn what is good for a diabetic person.
Yes.
Wow, that's really, really interesting.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. So this has been a learning journey for you.
Definitely, definitely.
And still at 15, is this something that you do every other day, or have you now incorporated food into your diet?
What I've done is that I have more or less worked around one major meal. So I normally have lunch as my major meal. More or less because of my work schedules, right? So in the morning I'll have a juice, and in the evening when I get back home I'll have more of vegetable salads, more fruit salads. I remember when I was growing up, I would never ever eat an avocado because I thought it was food for monkeys.
Whoa!
But right now that is like one of my favorite fruits. And in the evening, I sit down in the kitchen, I prepare salads with avocado because it has the nutrients it has, and it also helps like control the sugar in terms of it has a lot of oils that are good for the body, and it has a lot of ways of controlling the sugars not to go through ups and downs.
That's really nice. This is transformational. I promised everyone out there that you're going to be listening to a very transformational story, which it is. And before we bring this conversation to an end, there's so many things that we talked about earlier, like last week with Kunga. And exercise is key. In all this, and now going back to the kind of person you were before, working out and everything, is it something that you're able to do now and incorporate that with the healthy lifestyle that you live now?
Actually, if you just allow me to say, when we were doing the juicing over here, we would do exercises in the morning and in the evening.
Oh.
Just brisk walking.
Kunga was working to 5 minutes. You were the king. I can imagine.
I think I recall one of the things that I really got is that I had never realized how much, so to speak, lethargic I had become in terms of the slowness or even in the mindset. And through the exercise and through the juicing, I was able to kind of like experience boosts of energy and aliveness. And I remember there was one time we were doing the walk and we were coming up the road and I literally was tearing up the hill because I was just like, I felt like my teenage years are back. Remember what I was telling you earlier, like I'd go to the gym, I'd be the last one to live in the gym. And so the boosts of energy were also quite live because I really got that my body cells are more or less receptive. Because one of the things that sometimes as a diabetic is that your cells are not recepting, so to speak, the energy because there's lack of the insulin. But when I exercised, and I would feel like alive and in action, then I would really, really get to appreciate who I am then, and it's like I got to see myself again in my younger years. And yes, I've been able to incorporate that. I do a morning and evening jog, nowadays. It's not too heavy. I'm not pushing weights. I don't want to be, but yes, it's still something that at least I get to feel that my body is active. And is getting to utilize the sugar that is in my body, so that it doesn't hang there and allow me to have high sugars.
That's really, really good. And I wish you all the best in this journey. I hope you actually get to reverse this. And this also highlights something that we talked about with Kunga last week. And he said that back to nature is not about, you know, telling you to stop taking medication, because you still are taking your blood sugar medication and still living a healthy lifestyle. So these two go hand in hand. And I'm sure, I hope you're actually learning from this amazing journey, from these phenomenal people. Yes, you keep doing it. I keep going in and going out. I don't know what is healthy and what is not. Sometimes just assume, but you know what? All the best.
Keep coming back. We appreciate nature is waiting there for you.
Yeah, I think that's basically just allowing nature to, you know, just embracing it and taking it. All right, this has been Living Up. We've been talking to Patrick. Very, very interesting story there. I hope you learned so much. You don't need to do it every day. Just be aware of the things that you need to do to make sure that your life is better and is doing its optimum, actually. So the conversation should keep on going on our social media platforms. That's KTN Life and Style on Facebook, KTN Life_Style on Twitter and Instagram. SMS is 22840. We're taking a very short commercial break. Brian Silva is up next with Beyond Sport.